Doing it. Yes. What's up, everybody? How are you? Ron Placone here, reporting for Status Coup. You are watching Status Coup, and I'll mention this immediately at the top here. Stick around because at 5:30 Eastern, 2:30 Pacific, we're gonna move you over to Johnny F's live stream. He's live in New York City, or he's gonna be live in New York City, covering the New York government employees protest demanding a ceasefire. So we're going to go right over there. I know a lot of you have been tuning in to John's on the ground coverage. It has been excellent. He's been doing an amazing job. So we're in studio with you right now for the next hour, approximate hour, and then we're going to be moving over to John Farina at 5:30/2:30. You don't need to go anywhere. Just hang out, stick around, and hang out with me. Let's chat it up. If you can leave a super chat, that's much appreciated because you guys are my co-hosts. You're my eyes and ears, and we got a lot to talk about for the headlines portion. First of all, the what's going on in Israel Palestine, the war crimes that are being investigated. We got some headlines there. We also have some other footage I wanted to share. That's pretty heavy. We'll go there later in the show. We're not going to open up with that, but and then also some child labor, some child labor stories are going on. We're going to go through all that. Also, a little bit of good news. We have a little bit of good news in the digital rights space, which I know you're thinking, Ron, that's pretty necessary. Little bit of good news, pretty essential. So we do have a little bit of it. But first, what we're going to open up with today, that sounded really awkward, didn't it? What we're going to open up with today. Sorry, guys, it's Thursday. It's Thursday afternoon. I was at the beach a little earlier, and I have my contacts in today. You're getting a glassesless, Ron. How do you feel about it? You okay? Oh, and also, before we get into our first headline, we are running a promotion where you can go to statuscoupmember.com. What's the full pull up the thing? Yeah, there we go. Statuscoupmember.com/store, and you can get a membership that includes 2 months free. So 1 year at the $10 level is $100. 1 year at the $5 level is $50. You can get that now, or you can gift it to somebody. You can give them the gift of independent journalism. You can support independent journalism and give them the gift. Keep in mind, a membership at Status Coup, it goes a long way. It helps fund John Farina being the boots on the ground where he's at right now. It helped us stay at the UAW strike for the entire duration. We were the only media outlet in the world that did that. Literally, the only one in the world. We couldn't do that without you guys. But you know what? You get some fun stuff too. You get a members call with Jordan. Sometimes I'm there. Sometimes Tina's there. Sometimes Johnny F's there. Sometimes Colin's there. Colin's probably always there, but you know what I mean. So there's some cool perks too. We're doing different things. Status Coup is going to be carrying my scripted series starting in January. So a lot of exciting stuff, y'all. Yeah, Frank Azuri. That's my vertical show. It premiered in Rome in October, and now it's just kind of ours and my Andrew Saxona who makes them with me. He and I decided we're going to do the series, and it's going to be released here on Status Coup. So it's going to be the first ever scripted series ever on Status Coup. So I'm real excited about that. I hope you guys love it. I'm real excited to make it for you all. We're actually working on episode 2 already. Episode 1 is already done. We're working on episode 2. And all right, let's get to our first headline. We're going to start with the Pentagon budget that just passed. Oh boy, let's go to the Reuters piece first, Colin. Let's start there. Man, Congress passes an $886 billion defense policy bill. Biden's going to sign it into law. So got through both houses. We're going to go through the summaries here, but let's stick with this Reuters piece first. So Washington, D.C. All right. More than 2/3 of the U.S. House of Representatives voted in favor of a defense policy bill on Thursday that includes a record $886 billion in annual military spending and authorizes policies such as aid for Ukraine and pushback against China in the Indo-Pacific. So basically, war money, 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 war money. The House backed the National Defense Authorization Act, or NDAA, by 310 to 118, with strong support from Republicans and Democrats. It has more than two-thirds majority required to pass the measure and send it to the White House for President Joe Biden to sign into law. So another measure has passed. And it also has some other additional poison pills, y'all. I mean, not only is it, I mean, the whole thing's a poison pill because it's, it's just war money. But there's some additional bad stuff that's not even war money. Separate from the appropriations bill that set government spending levels, the NDAA authorizes everything from pay raises for troops. This year's will be 5.2% to purchase of ships, ammunition, and aircraft. Again, war. Because it is one of the few major pieces of legislation that becomes law every year, members of Congress will use it as a vehicle for a wide range of initiatives. So here's the other thing that's in it. Go ahead and so let's focus on the paragraph about the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. If you guys remember, on Tuesday, or was it Tuesday or Monday? I think it was Monday actually. But earlier this week when I was hosting the show, we talked about how we need to stop the FISA bill from moving forward in the NDAA. Well, here's what happened. The fiscal 2024 NDAA also includes a 4-month extension of a disputed domestic surveillance authority, giving lawmakers more time to either reform or keep the program, known as Section 702. That's the bad thing. There was the good part of it, which was the liberty protection portion of it. That just sort of is laying dormant. But this part, the bad part, that's moving forward. And they're going to be having it around for 4 months, and then they're going to decide what to do with it. So basically, they didn't get rid of it; they just kind of kicked it down the can. So that sucks. This whole thing is pretty bad. Let's go to the Hill piece that summarizes what the Senate did. So this is where it went from the Senate over to the House. Let's start with the Senate part, and that was the Hill piece there. So Senate passes mammoth annual defense policy bill. Now, this is from yesterday. I wanted to show this to you guys because it says who actually voted against it. Here we go. There we go. The vote to approve the NDAA was 87 to 13. 6 Republicans and 6 Democrats voted against the bill. So here's who voted against it. Now, this first one, I got to say, a little bit surprising. Cory Booker, usually just kind of in line with the corporate Democrat agenda, which in this case would have been voting for this. But Cory Booker voted against it. All right. Mike Braun, a Republican out of Indiana. Josh Hawley, which Josh Hawley usually has some libertarian leaning, so it's not shocking he would vote against something like this. But, I mean, it's good. I mean, I'm glad he did. Mike Lee, Cynthia Loomis, Ed Markey, has some progressive leanings, voted against this. Good job. Jeff Merkley, same deal there. Rand Paul, again, libertarian, anti-war. We disagree on a lot of other issues, but, usually anti-war, that's good. J.D. Vance, Liz Warren, Liz Warren is another surprise. But Liz Warren voted against it. Peter Welch and Ron Wyden, and, of course, Senator Bernie Sanders. House lawmakers will next take up the legislation. Well, we know what happened there. That, dominated the House overwhelmingly. So we know what happened in the House. Now it is headed to Joe Biden's desk, which, you guys get that this is how an empire behaves, right? We have a declining as I adjust my headphones, a declining quality of life at home, where people don't have health care. Child labor's coming back. We're going to get into that next. There's a ridiculous wealth disparity in this country. There is no middle class. The middle class is over. The middle class is slipping away like my headphones off my head. My headphones won't stay still today. I don't know what it is. It's bothering me. But we have no middle class. People are completely underemployed. All the statistics they throw at you like, oh, well, no, employment's looking good. That's all BS because the way they measure employment makes no sense. They don't factor in underemployed. They don't factor in the overworked. They don't factor in disgruntled workers. There's all these things they don't factor in. So it's basically an indication of nothing. It's just a talking point that people use whenever they do or don't like the president. That's all it is. It's basically the equivalent of when you blame the president for high gas prices. Well, the president doesn't really have much to do with that. And whatever people who like Joe Biden, people who don't like Joe Biden, oh, it's Joe Biden's fault. People who do like Joe Biden, oh, it's not Joe Biden's fault. And then if someone else is in office, those same people will make the same argument. They pretend that the president is responsible for gas prices, depending on whether or not they like the president. And we all stay more ridiculous. So meanwhile, all of our money goes to bombs and defense, quote unquote. What are we defending ourselves from? Nobody knows. But it's got to go to war. It's got to go to war, baby, war, baby, war. It's got to go to fund the genocide over in Israel. It's got to go to fund Ukraine's never-ending war. It's got to go to our own military and all the countries we're bombing for no frickin' reason. It's got to go to our energy exploits around the world. We're an empire. That's what we are. The United States is an empire. And like all other empires, it's crumbling. It is crumbling. And it's going to end. And by the way, we're at that 250-year mark. Most empires, they have about a 250-year run. The United States, as we know it, that's pretty much how old it is. So that brings me to today's poll. Which empire will the U.S. become? It's already an empire. But as far as the fall from grace, is it going to be more like the British Empire or the Roman Empire? Now, here's what I mean by that. Over on Graham Elwood's show, The Political Vigilante, we watched this video all about the Roman Empire and talked about it. And now the Roman Empire had a very, very ugly fall. It literally burned. Whereas the British Empire, it was more of a gentle fall. Now, when I say gentle fall, I mean in comparison. I don't mean literally. You might be thinking, Ron, what was gentle about it? No, nothing in the literal sense. I mean in comparison. You know what I mean? So is the United States going to have a gentle fall, i.e., we're just going to, we've completely overextended ourselves. We're going to end our economy of war and just be another country. And there's going to be a lot of turmoil that's going to happen. But essentially, we're just going to become another country, not an empire. And honestly, the whole world's going to be better off for it, including people that live in the United States. Or is it going to be more like the Roman Empire, where all the above will still happen, but it's going to get really, really brutal and ugly at home? Which one are we going to be? I hope we're more like British. I have a feeling all the signs, though, point to we're going to be more like Rome. Hope I'm wrong. But cast your vote. Vote in the poll. Are we going to be more like British or more like Roman? I'm hoping British. I'm thinking likely the way things are going, Roman. But hopefully that turns around. Because here's why I feel that way. We have, again, a declining quality of life at home. And more people are food insecure. I don't know where you live. That was a weird thing to just generally say to everyone watching. I don't know where you all live. But I live in Los Angeles. And one thing I've noticed in Los Angeles, there are more armed security people at grocery stores now. I'm assuming they're just cops. Maybe there's some kind of private security force. I don't know. But I'm assuming they're just cops. But they're spending more and more time in grocery stores. Whenever I go into a grocery store, I see a couple of them. That wasn't the case just a few years ago. Why is that? It's because they're prepping for a time where more and more people are food insecure and they have to steal food to live. That's what they're preparing for. And by the way, that's already happening. You're already hearing these stories of people who they had to steal food because otherwise their kids weren't going to eat. You hear these stories of food banks running out of food to give people because there's not enough people who have anything to spare, and there's too many people who need help. You hear more and more about food deserts where people are just desperate, and stuff like McDonald's has to be a food group because that's all they have. So that's happening. And I have a feeling it's going to keep going. And it's going to get to the point where there's going to be a majority of people in this country who are going to make the decision, do I do I pay my rent or do I eat? I have to steal food. Well, I mean, think about it. If you have kids or something, let's say you're a parent, your kids are freaking hungry. You got nothing. What are you going to do? I don't know about you. I would go and I would steal food. That's what I would do. I would go and I would steal food for them because you have no choice. We covered a story the other day about the person in Pennsylvania. They had to start peeing outside because their sewage bill got doubled because they privatized the water and sewage systems where they live, which, by the way, maybe Status Coup is going to be on the ground investigating that more in the coming weeks. Probably not before the holidays, But so they had to choose between, well, I can't afford groceries if I don't pee outside. So it's happening. It is happening. So that's why I think we're going to be a little more like Rome. And by the way, we have the most militarized police force in the world that's more than willing to just brutalize citizens. And we have one of the biggest militaries in the world. And keep in mind, this country was under martial law just a few years ago. Some people forget that. During the Trump administration, this country was under martial law. We were under martial law. You don't think they'd do that again? Especially since a bunch of people just forget it happened. They'll do that again. And you don't think they'll order police to just kill people en masse? You've been to a protest the last few years? So what's the poll looking at so far, Colin? Do we have some votes already? Let's see what the tally is.
Yep. So far, we have 17 votes with 18% saying British Empire and 82% saying Roman.
All right. Okay. All right. Well, yeah, I mean, I'm Roman. I'm voting Roman. So let's go to that More Perfect Union video.
Defense industry executives and their Wall Street investors are getting really excited about the number of global crises we've got going on.
They're winners and losers. If you look at the defense stocks in America, they're the winners in this situation.
This seems to fit quite nicely with the Raytheon defense portfolio.
We're on a kind of a peacetime mindset for the last several decades. We need to ramp up to more of a wartime footing.
The unfortunate reality that conflict is good for these stocks.
Now, we're not a foreign policy organization. More Perfect Union covers the American economy with a working class lens. But here's the thing. Politicians from both parties are trying to convince us that foreign wars are good for improving America's working class.
I'm going to send to Congress an urgent budget request to support our critical partners, including Israel and Ukraine.
The supplemental the president put forward invests to ensure our military readiness and create American jobs.
The overwhelming majority has, in fact, gone to supporting American jobs.
American manufacturing, American jobs.
This supplemental does build up that industrial base.
This money is going to create jobs for Americans.
Equipment that defends America and is made in America.
This isn't a new strategy. For more than 80 years, politicians and the corporate elite have told us that war creates jobs and economic stimulus for all of us. The reality is that defense spending has become yet another mechanism by which wealth is transferred from the working class to the elites.
How psychotic. First of all, shout out to More Perfect Union for putting that together. They did an excellent job there. I think there should be a collaboration between More Perfect Union and Status Coup. We can call it More Perfect Coup, More Perfect Status, Status Union. We got choices. More Perfect Coup is a little weird. I think maybe that should be the word. But it's always so chilling when you hear people talk about war like an economic opportunity. This is war. People die. People get killed. And you're like, oh, yeah, this is good for the economy. And here in the United States, we are desensitized to it. We are completely desensitized to those types of conversations. And we're desensitized to things we don't even realize. And I include myself in this. The other day, I was walking around Venice, the Venice neighborhood in Los Angeles, and I was walking around with a gentleman who was Australian. And he was visiting the United States. It was his first time in Los Angeles. We were walking around together. And he was just going, oh, my God. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Wait, what is no one? And I go, hey, man, what's up? He was noticing all the homeless. And he said to me, and I said, I guess I'm a little desensitized to it. And he goes, you completely are. Like, he was blown away. Like, he's like, you're completely desensitized to it. And the truth is, you know, we all are. You know, especially, I mean, I live in Los Angeles. In Los Angeles, every neighborhood has a tent city. Every single one. My neighborhood, every single. I mean, some people they think it's just all Skid Row. It's not. It's everywhere in the city, and nobody is doing anything about it. I mean, other than just, you know, I mean, I there's a homeless guy in my neighborhood. I give him food when I can. I mean, that's pretty much it. And you don't even realize how desensitized you are to it until you're with somebody from another country who's just blown away by everything they see. And they're like, is this, what are you guys, what? And you're just, yeah, man, it's, and similarly, there are people who work for these defense industries, who work on Wall Street, who just see this as, this is just business. We got to go to war because it's good for business. And that's what our government's based off of. We're based off of a war economy. Smedley Butler wrote the book a long time ago, War's a Racket. I recommend reading it if you haven't. And that's the country we're living in. And we're seeing another effect of that today. $886 billion going to defense, going to the Pentagon. $886 billion. Could have given everyone health care many times over. Money like that could do a lot in fighting climate change. It could fund a jobs program to fight climate change. It could give everyone health care. It could give everyone food. It could give everyone housing. That's what that kind of money could do. Instead, it's going to go to fund carnage and war and destruction all around the world. And they passed this right before the holiday. This was one of their last actions before going on break. It's incredible. It really is incredible. And I know it's like, it's nothing we're not used to. Again, we're desensitized to it. But when you really think about it, it is so nuts. Just absolute nuts. And then little things. I mean, I remember when I was in Scotland for the first time and I went to the Immigration Museum, they had this pie chart that shows where they spend all of their money, like how the government spends this money. And there was like a portion for education. There was a portion for defense. I mean, of course, everyone spends something on defense. Then there was a portion for culture. There was a portion for the arts, which, hey, as an American, that was really something crazy to see. Oh my God, some societies actually fund the arts. Wow. And it was just science and research. I mean, all these things. And I realized you'll never see anything like that in the United States publicly displayed, because the whole pie chart would just be like war. And then there would be this little sliver that could barely be visible that would just say everything else. And that'd be it. Other countries, by the way, speaking of arts funding, every country, pretty much every, like Nordic country, every country in the EU, the UK, every country like that funds the arts about 10 times to 1 of what the United States does. 10 to 1. And even that 1 is misleading, because with little funding for the arts the United States has, it all goes to the military. So even that little 1 is misleading. It's actually way worse than 10 to 1. That kind of money, $886 billion, could give everyone free college. Everyone could go to college. And you know what? In other countries, an education is a human right. Healthcare is a human right. Not in the U.S. Not in the U.S. And the U.S., if you want to go to war, they got a gig for you. You want to go to war, you want to stay at war, the U.S. has a gig for you. And this is the type of stuff we fund. Let's go to the Democracy Now! Piece on the latest update in Israel here. Israel is accused of war crimes for apparently deliberate killing of Reuters journalist in Lebanon. Let's go ahead and scroll down. Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International are calling for Israel to be officially investigated for committing war crimes in its targeting of journalists. This comes after an internal Reuters investigation conclusively found that its journalist Issam Abdallah was killed by an Israeli tank shell fired on him and a group of 6 other journalists in southern Lebanon on October 13th. So they're targeting journalists. And here's another thing that happened. So you guys probably saw this already, but I want to share it. Colin, let's go to that video where Brian Cox, who had an amazing performance in the show Succession, which I recommend if you haven't seen it yet, he reads If I Must Die, which was a poem by the beloved Palestinian poet, teacher, and martyr, Rafit Al-Arir. I'm probably mispronouncing it, and I apologize. Rafit was killed on December 7th by an Israeli airstrike, and this was the last poem that he published.
If I Must Die by Rafat Al-Arir, November the 1st, 2023. If I must die, you must live to tell my story, to sell my things, to buy a piece of cloth and some strings. Make it white with a long tail, so that a child somewhere in Gaza, while looking heaven in the eye, awaiting his dad who left in a blaze and bid no one farewell, not even to his flesh, not even to himself, sees the kite, my kite you made, flying up above, and thinks for a moment an angel is there, bringing back love. If I must die, let it bring hope. Let it be a tale.
That's heavy. Rafat Al-Arir. And yeah, I mean, he wrote that and published it, and shortly after he was targeted, he was at his sister's house. This was on December 6th. He was at his sister's house. He was targeted by an Israeli airstrike. They knew where he was. They were going after him, and they killed him. And that was the last thing he published. I'm sure a lot of you guys already saw that. Beautiful, beautiful reading, by the way, by Brian Cox. And on another note, I do recommend, if you haven't watched Succession, I do highly recommend it. His performance and the entire cast, it's a brilliant show. Brilliant, brilliant show. I enjoyed it very, very much. Yeah. But wow, that's heavy. That's not my first time watching that video, but man, it's hard not to really feel that every time you watch it. And a bunch of folks are calling for a ceasefire. Most of the country wants a ceasefire. We've seen wall-to-wall protests in favor of a ceasefire. Some of it we've covered here on Status Coup. Obviously. And by the way, for anyone just tuning in, at 2:30 Pacific / 5:30 Eastern, I did it backwards. I apologize. I'm in the Pacific time zone. But we're going to go right over to John Farina, who is at a ceasefire demonstration. And it's in New York City. It's New York government employees, that are protesting for a ceasefire, in favor of a ceasefire. John Farina is going to be there live on the ground. His on-the-ground coverage has been absolutely brilliant. You don't need to go anywhere. We're going to go right there. And in the meantime, leave your super chats. I'll get to all of them before we sign out here, and you go straight to the coverage there. So, bunch of people, even the Pope. Let's go to that tweet. The Pope is calling for a ceasefire. I tweeted this. I said, I live in a country that's further right than the Catholic Church. But I almost said St. Francis. St. Francis was the saint who liked animals a bunch. And he's from Assisi, which is a beautiful, beautiful town in Italy. I recommend going there. And he was St. Francis of Assisi. And he loved animals. That was his jam. And he also was very simplistic in his garb. Anyway, look, Pope Francis said, I renew my appeal for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza to get aid to the population as a matter of urgency. May all the hostages be freed immediately. No to arms, yes to peace. May this enormous suffering of the Israelis and the Palestinians come to an end. So the Pope is calling for a ceasefire. And here's someone else who called for a ceasefire. Let's go to the video Jordan sent, Colin.
As union members, we know we must fight for all workers and suffering people around the world. We must fight for humanity. That means we must restore people's basic rights and allow water, food, fuel,
that's right.
humanitarian aid to enter Gaza.
That's right.
We must also call for the release of all hostages.
That's right.
I thank our UAW members for speaking out and pushing us to come out in support of a ceasefire.
That's right.
It was the right thing to do.
That's right.
So now it's time for the rest of our elected leaders to step up and do what it takes to end the violence.
That's right.
And I call on the rest of the labor movement to join us in this mission for peace and social justice for all of humanity.
So you know what this means. Pope Francis is stealing his tweets from UAW President Sean Fain. I'm kidding. Although that would be funny, actually. That'd be really funny if that was actually, but I don't think that was I don't think that's actually happening. But yeah. So there you go. The UAW calling for a ceasefire. UAW calling for a ceasefire. So the Pope, UAW, thousands and thousands, is that one more than probably billions of people at this point? It's got to be billions of people calling for a ceasefire. The majority of Americans calling for a ceasefire. My headphones want a ceasefire. Lucy, my cat, in favor of a ceasefire. Whenever I say ceasefire, she gets excited. Yet it's not happening. Why? Well, because there's a business opportunity here. There's a business opportunity, which, by the way, we also know that they are they're trying to get energy from Gaza. They're looking into Gaza for oil and mineral rights. So they're going to try to they're going to try to profit off of this as much as they possibly can. No, this is funny. Let's show Travers. Sean Fain for Pope. That'd be an interesting next gig for him. He goes from president of the UAW to Pope. He gets to be Pope now. Sean Fain, how is your Italian? All right, so bunch of people calling for ceasefire. Still not happening. And I wanted to share that poem with you guys today because, I don't know if I'll see you again before the holiday. I hope I do. I mean, there's still a little bit of time, but I won't be seeing you. Actually, I might be seeing you tomorrow. I might be on with Tina. We won't know for sure until the morning, but I might be on with Tina Desiree Berg tomorrow. So I might actually be seeing you tomorrow. But this will be the last time. This might be the last time I'm hosting before the holidays. Let's put it that way. I don't know if I'll be hosting again before the holidays. But anyway, so let's see here. Let's go to the child labor story, which, by the way, everybody smash the like button, smash the like button. And also, you don't have to go anywhere. We're going to be going to John Farina's coverage at 5:30 Eastern, 2:30 Pacific. He is covering the rally for a ceasefire of the New York government employees and others. His on-the-ground coverage has been phenomenal. I know you guys know that. You don't need to hear it from me, but you don't need to go anywhere. Just stick around. We're going to go right over to there. In the meantime, feel free to leave me a super chat. I will get to all of them. And also, we're running a special. Colin, let's go to the special. Yeah, you can get 1 year of membership at the $10 level for $100. And 1 year at the $5 level for $50. That's 2 months free. You can do that over at statuscoupmember.com/store. And not only are you supporting independent journalism, you're supporting what John Farina is doing right now. You're supporting our ability to cover the UAW strike for the entire duration, which we were the only outlet in the world that did that, literally. You're supporting sending Status Lou out to East Palestine, sending Jordan to Flint, sending Tina on the beat, sending me to the UAW strike. They I did some reinforcements. I think I did like I was 4 days, I think. Johnny F did all of them. Johnny F was all the days, that guy. And he's on the ground today. Johnny F, he is fine being on the ground doing the 1s, 2s, 3s, and 4s. It's a lot of numbers. It's 4 of them. So let's go to child labor. As I'm in a jovial, laughing mood, let's go to one of our lighter stories today. Child labor. Jesus. So I have long propagated the theory that I sincerely hope I'm wrong. I still think that would make, maybe in 2024, that's going to be a segment I do called "I Hope I'm Wrong" with Ron Placone, where I go through something that I think is likely to happen, that's on path to happen, and I say, by the way, I really hope I'm wrong. Please, let's change this so that I end up being wrong. I desperately want to be wrong, but so I said we're likely going to see an extensive rise of child labor before we see living wages in this country, the direction we're going. I sincerely hope I'm wrong. However, day after day, we're going more in that direction. Here at Status Coup, we covered when McDonald's committed a bunch of child labor violations in Western Pennsylvania. We covered the Chick-fil-A situation where they were paying workers in sandwiches. We covered what they did in Arkansas. So where they basically lowered the ages and the amount of work children were able to do. They basically legalized child labor in Arkansas. Here's a summary video that Colin made. Let's go there first to set this up. This didn't take place in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We're in North Carolina now. But check it out. North Carolina Chick-fil-A owner fined after some workers were paid in sandwiches. Wow. And teens were assigned hazardous jobs. They were caught. The owner of a North Carolina Chick-fil-A has been fined by the Department of Labor for child labor and minimum wage standards violation. So the restaurant first came under fire in July of 2022 when a Facebook post offered to pay volunteer workers, which, by the way, that's an oxymoron, volunteer workers, in meal vouchers, and that went viral. Child labor violations involving 388 minors at McDonald's uncovered since May. Now, we, of course, covered a story prior here on Status Coup where there were McDonald's franchises in the Pittsburgh area who were committing a ton of child labor violations. Here's a bunch of locations in Louisiana and Texas. So here's what's going on here in this article from the Tri-City Herald. Federal officials found more child labor violations at McDonald's restaurants after recently announcing 305 minors, including 2 10-year-olds. 10-year-olds were working at franchise locations illegally. Yep. Child labor, baby. It's back. Much like the McRib. It's back, even though it shouldn't be. So here's the latest update. Here's some news from Florida. Colin, let's go ahead and play the video.
There have been, for the past several years, there's been hundreds of child labor violations here, including a 195.8 increase between 2000 and 2022. Adding this bill here, do you think that would increase that and the child would be taken advantage of? Statistics suggest they would be.
Representative Cheney.
Thank you, Chair Soroy. Thank you, Rep. Casello, for that question. First of all, this bill is not about children. This bill is about 16 and 17-year-olds. These are youth workers that are driving automobiles. These are not children. There are hazardous workforce protections in place in Florida that are more stringent than the federal protections. And the study that you reference is 281 individual cases, which just one case is too many, but 281 out of the thousands and thousands and thousands of workers is maybe not as much as the percentage that you presented. And I would say that if there are violations that are happening, there are laws in place, those violations should be reported. Those employers should be held accountable.
Now, there are some people who misunderstood what's really happening here and what's really going on in Florida. Some people said, well, gee, I don't think it's that big of a deal if a 16 or 17-year-old has a part-time job. That's not what's happening here. Okay. I mean, just for the record, when I was 16, I had a part-time job. I worked at a grocery store, a couple days a week, and that's fine. Like, I have no like whatever. I actually enjoyed it because there was one of our coworkers who could pass for 21, and occasionally he would pick up a few six-packs. He had this ridiculous fake ID. I don't know how it worked for him, but he had this like ridiculous, and he was 17. He looked at the time, I mean, he was 17. I think I was 15. Maybe I was 16 already. So maybe he was more like 18. I remember he was a senior in high school about to graduate when I met him, and I was a sophomore. So whatever, someone else do the math. But at the time, he looked like he was about 40 to me. So I don't know how he actually looked. You know what I mean? Because you have the scope of when you were that young. But anyway, he had a really good ID. And so sometimes he would get six-packs for whoever would be like, hey, man, here's some money. Go get me a six-pack. So I would, that was a little added bonus. At that gig. My point is, I'm fine with I was going to make a joke. I was like, I'm fine with 16-year-olds having jobs because how else are they going to get boosts? No, I'm just kidding, sort of. It's not about a 16-year-old or a 17-year-old having a part-time job. I personally have no problem with that. Having a part-time job, a summer job, whatever. I think most of us had a summer job when we were 16. What this is about, really, though, it's about expanding the scope of what they can do and allowing them to do hazardous jobs they shouldn't be doing, and also expanding the scope of the hours that they work. And that's what's called a slow boil. And that's what's happening. All of a sudden, they're like, well, it should be okay for a 14-year-old to operate a whatever. It should be okay for a 13. And then before you know it, you have situations where 10-year-olds are working. You have situations where teenagers are working way more hours than they are allowed to by law. And those are the laws that McDonald's broke. Those were the laws that McDonald's broke in multiple places, Louisiana, Texas, Pennsylvania, and it was over 100 franchises. When that much is happening, it's not just some random, for instance, it is a calculated decision. They have decided we're going to violate what child labor laws exist because it's just the cost of doing business for us. We're just going to be faced with a slap on the wrist. We'll pay the slap on the wrist, and then we'll just continue business as usual because it's cheaper for us to exploit children, and when we get caught, just pay the fine, than it would be to actually give people living wages. That's the slow boil that's happening, and now policy is following. Arkansas is passing policy that brings us back to child labor. Florida is passing policy that gets us back to child labor. That's the issue at stake here. This isn't about just, a 16-year-old has a job a couple hours a week. That's not what this is about. No one has a problem with that. This is about the slow boil that is literally bringing child labor back into our society. So, and I really do think we're going to see a return to legit child labor before we see living wages in this country. And I really hope I'm wrong. I really freaking hope I'm wrong. All right, so we have a little bit of good news. We got a little bit of good news in the digital space. Now, keep in mind, there was a little bit of bad news in the digital space because the FISA part is in the NDAA. The whole FISA part, the surveillance thing, is in the NDAA. It's only for 4 months, so they just kicked it down the road, but it's still in there, and that is bad. But we have a little bit of good news, too. Let's go to the tweet first, Colin, then we'll go to the article from last week. So Meta has finally launched end-to-end encryption for Messenger. This followed pressures from activist groups such as Fight for the Future and others to make end-to-end encryption the standard across all online communication platforms. So end-to-end encryption, without getting into the too nitty-gritty of it, end-to-end encryption is basically a thicker layer of privacy in your messages. When you don't have end-to-end encryption, anyone can just kind of look at it. And the entity, like say Meta, if your messages aren't end-to-end encryption, they can just look at it whenever they want. They can just go through your personal messages whenever. Meta was doing that and cooperating with law enforcement. We've covered tons of stories where that's happening. When you have end-to-end encryption, you have an extra layer of security. And it's a significant one. So some of the end-to-end encrypted platforms include things like Signal. WhatsApp is end-to-end encrypted. So let's go to the article that explains this a little bit better. Meta begins rolling out end-to-end encryption on messenger chats and calls. Go ahead and scroll down, Colin. Because this is basically Meta's Messenger is one of the world's most common ways to send messages with contacts. The company said it will roll out end-to-end encryption for all personal chats and calls. Now, to be clear, encryption has been available on these platforms for a while, but the latest news means the feature is switched on by default. So in the past, when messaging clients had or added encryption, it sometimes meant a more restrictive experience in terms of features. With this launch, Meta said that users will retain familiar features like themes and custom reactions, but will also get a bunch of new features too, including edited and disappearing messages, read receipts control, improved photo and video sending, and improved voice messaging. All right, so let's see. When you get the update, so let's go to that bottom paragraph there that says how it'll work. When you get the update, you'll also benefit from higher image quality, improved responding or reacting to any photo, blah, blah, blah. Finally, Meta said that voice messaging is the fastest growing messaging format today. The rollout will take several months until everyone gets it, but when you do, you'll need to set up a recovery method, such as a PIN, to restore your messages if you lose, change, or add a device. So that's a victory. And that is thanks to the campaigns from organizations like Fight for the Future, who I have campaigned with, and other digital rights organizations. And of course, here at Status Coup, where we highlight digital rights issues, which brings me to our call to action today. If you have not yet, please, you can take a break and do it real quick. Go to battleforthenet.com, battleforthenet.com. Go. Today is the last day to enter comments to the FCC to demand that they reinstate net neutrality. The FCC laid out a plan to reinstate net neutrality, but they left it up to open comments. They're like, what do the people think? We have to let them know. We demand net neutrality be reinstated on the federal level, and today is the last day for comments. Net neutrality is the policy that keeps the internet free and open. Without it, shows like this could not exist. Without it, the internet would look like cable television 2.0, and the only content that would load at a reasonable speed are people who could pay the fee, like the corporations of the world, the big media conglomerates. It would render indie media obsolete. So if you value stuff like this, you need net neutrality. So please go to battleforthenet.com. Please. Today is the last day for commenting. And the reason we haven't seen the effects of a post-net neutrality internet is because we have state net neutrality protections that makes it hard for them to unroll federal packages, but we need federal net neutrality. So yeah, battleforthenet.com. Do it to it. And guys, I'll make a few quick announcements here before I go to the chat. First of all, there are tickets available for screenings of my movie, and I'm going to be at one of them. So February 22nd, Tucson, Arizona. My movie Left It Wall will be playing at the screening room. That's just a screening of the film. I'm not going to be there, but you can get tickets from my website. And it's low dough. It's like $5 because it's a cheap night out at the movies. So that's happening February 22nd. February 29th, my movie is screening in Omaha, Nebraska. March 20th, my movie is screening in Washington, D.C., and that is free. Doing a joint event. That's a free screening. So if you're in Washington, D.C., you can go see my movie for free. March 20th. Do it. March 22nd, I'm doing a show, a screening, and a Q&A after in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So that's a full-fledged event. That's in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, March 22nd. You can get tickets now at my website, ronplacone.com. Guys, by the way, we've had Status Coup people at every show I did in 2023, including Edinburgh, Scotland. And my neighborhood is San Pedro. 2024, I want to see the same thing. I want to hear, I know I'm not going to be at all the screenings, but I want to know that there was Status Coup fam at all the screenings. So let me know you were there. Take a selfie at the screening and send it to me, and we'll play it here on Status Coup. And of course, if they're the screenings that are shows and screenings, I will see you there. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Get your tickets for March 22nd. Lexi Marie, that's awesome. I'll see you there. I'm excited for that. I'm very excited for that. So let's go to the chat. Khaled, thank you for your work. You are a legend. That's very kind of you, Khaled. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. I appreciate you tuning in, and stick around for John Farina on the 1s and 2s. Yo, what's up, K-Days? How are you? Yo, the CEO of Panera said that nobody wants to work hard to increase shareholder value because we're lazy. I heard about that. I didn't read the details, but I did hear about that. Yeah, what a great take. They don't want to make the shareholders richer because they're lazy or because they're tired of being exploited. Maybe that's it. Tell you what, CEO of Panera, how about you cut all of your workers in and make Panera a workers' co-op? Give people a share of the frickin' company. First of all, if they did that, by the way, hourly wages would be like probably 10 times what they are now, at least, probably more than that. I'm just speculating. How about you do that? If you're so worried about workers being lazy, how about you cut them into a company? Huh? Give them a chance to work hard. It's ridiculous. But yeah, thank you for sharing that, K-Days. I appreciate it. Nadia, what's up? How are you? Good to hear from you. I haven't seen you in a while. Your chat is blocking my head. Here we go. Just my forehead. There, look here now. Just oh man, you can't really. What's going on? I'm having way too much fun with this. Are you guys enjoying this as much as I am? Probably not. Nadia, what's up? It's good to see you. The Roman Empire lasted long after the western provinces fell until 1453. At minimum, the British Empire was taken over by U.S. plutocrats under the aegis of decolonization, aka comprador coup regimes. Yeah, I mean, I guess from the standpoint of they sort of just fell from grace as opposed to a ton of destruction that happened in Rome. But which way did you vote? Or did you vote both? That wasn't an option. We just gave two options. But thank you for that, Nadia. Much appreciated. Henry, what's up? Desensitized. I think most people just reach a point where they can only deal with so much. Interesting point. Interesting point, Henry. I like that. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I had a moment the other day. I mean, getting into, I told a story earlier for those of you who may have missed it, where I was walking around with an Australian friend, and they were just blown away by the homelessness they saw. And I was sort of, compared to them, very desensitized to it. And he called me out. He was just like, dude, you're totally desensitized. You don't, and I'm like, well, it's just, I mean, when you're walking around, it's just all around you. Like, and, there's a homeless gentleman in my neighborhood. His name is Brett. His dog's name is Molly. And I try to help him when I can. I try to give him food when I can. I usually just give him food. But sometimes it's hard because like I see him when I go on my walks. And so sometimes I'll like bring food with me. And if I don't see him, I don't have food to give him. But I try to help him out whenever I can. And I hadn't seen him for a few days. And here in Los Angeles, there's a serial killer who is targeting homeless people. And I kind of thought to myself the other night, I actually said this to my wife. I'm like, I hope Brett's okay. I hope. And then I took a step outside of the situation. I realized how messed up is that? That not only do I, is there this person who I know is houseless and I can't really do much other than just give them food when I can, but also that, there's like, I'm worried a serial killer got them. You know what I mean? It's crazy. Anyway, Melanie, what's up? How are you, Melanie? Geologists and resource economists have confirmed that the occupied Palestinian territory lies above sizable reservoirs of oil and natural gas wealth in Area C of the West Bank. Yeah. Yeah, how terrible is that? So that's what they're really going after. And that's why they won't have a ceasefire. They know there's oil and gas reserves. This is the millionth reason why we need to end fossil fuels now. And of course, the COP28 summit, The climate summit, they're doing the bare minimum per usual. Despos Fleisch, what's up? Netanyahu wanna be Pope of the Jews, I guess. I don't think so, actually, because there are tons of Jews all over the country and all over the world who are protesting what Netanyahu's right-wing government is doing. There are synagogues all over the United States where they are demanding a ceasefire. There are Jews for Peace who are doing actions every single frickin' day. So Netanyahu sure doesn't speak for them. And Netanyahu sure does not speak for the Jewish people. He speaks for the right-wing Israeli government that's committing a genocide. That's who he speaks for. Let's see. Teresa, what's up? Don't forget Festivus on generational change. Okay. Am I on that? They emailed me, but they never told me I was part of it. They invited me and I said, yeah, sure. Just let me know the details. But then I never heard back. Or did I? Maybe I did. All right. Forget everything I just said. I remember they emailed me and invited me, and I said, yeah, sure, I'll come on. But then I don't know if they confirmed it or not with me. They might have, and I got to review my emails. But thank you for that. Thank you for that, Teresa. Thank you, Despos Fleisch. Thank you, Melanie. Thank you, Henry. Thank you, Nadia. Thank you, K-Days. Thank you, Khalid. We got to go soon, but let me make a real quick announcement, and then we'll go to the poll before we go over to Johnny F. First of all, starting in January, speaking of new cool stuff, starting in January, my series, Frank Azzurri, is going to be premiering right here on Status Coup. Status Coup is going to have their first scripted series, and it's Frank Azzurri. We released the film in Rome. It premiered at a festival in Rome, Italy, and now we're going to make it a web series. So you're going to see episode 1 in January, episode 2 in January. We'll probably do like one every other week, and we'll have an actual season. It'll just be like a TV show. It's a vertical series, and I'm so excited for you guys to see it. I think you're going to love it. So I'm real excited about that. Colin, let's go to the results before we go over to Johnny F on the 1s and 2s.
Yeah, so the end of the poll was 72 votes, with 33% saying British and 66% saying Roman.
So British won.
No, Roman won with 60.
I thought you said 72. What number did you say first?
33 and then
33. Oh shit. All right. I don't know why did I hear 72? Jesus. All right. Okay, so Roman won. Yeah, I'm going Roman too. Where'd you go? What's your vote?
Probably Roman also. How that looks, I'm not sure, but in the modern times, but it'll be interesting.
Interesting is one way to put it. All right, we got to go over to Johnny F. Let me thank everyone one more time. Thank you, Khalid. Thank you, K-Days. Thank you very much, Nadia. Thank you, Henry. Thank you, Melanie. Thank you, Despos Fleisch. Thank you, Teresa. And guys, we're going to send you over to Johnny F on the 1s and 2s. One final reminder, we have a holiday special where you can get a Status Coup membership for 2 months free, and you can gift it to somebody. Looking for that perfect gift? StatusCoupMember.com/store. You can get 2 months free. 1 year at the $10 level is $100. 1 year at the $5 level, $50. Please do consider it, because you're supporting on-the-ground journalism like what we're about to send you over to. So let me just base. Colin's on the phone here. Hold on. I see Colin behind the scenes on the phone. Let me make sure everything's okay. Colin, is everything okay?
Oh yeah, just getting ready for John. Where you guys will be
okay, all right. I'll continue the sign off then. I was just making sure. It could have been the president of show business going, "We are so excited about Frank Azzurri." So I just wanted to make sure everything is okay. We're going over to Johnny F on the 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s. You're going to be seeing live footage of a ceasefire demonstration consisting of New York government employees and others. Again, the world is demanding a ceasefire, but who doesn't want a ceasefire? The United States imperialist interests. That's what it is. So, guys, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. I'll see you again before the holiday. I'm pretty confident I'll see you again. I might not be hosting again, but I'll definitely see you again. And in the meantime, this is Ron Placone. The headphones messed up my hair today because they wouldn't stay straight. But anyway, this is Ron Placone for Status Coup, signing out. Don't forget the 2 months free. Sign up now and check out Johnny F on the